The Deep Space Research Station Enlightenment floated quietly in the darkness between stars. Its silver walls gleamed under the light of distant suns. Inside the station, alien scientist Veltar studied data streams on his screen. His 6 arms moved quickly across the control panels. His large black eyes never left the numbers flowing past. Veltar was the smartest scientist in the Keth Dominion. For 50 years, he had solved mysteries that puzzled other minds. But today, something different appeared on his sensors. Something that made his blood run cold. "Master Veltar." His student Nixara rushed into the lab. Her voice shook with excitement. "You must see this right away." Veltar turned his massive head toward her. "What have you found, young one?" "A human ship, Master, just sitting there in the Kepler Nebula. It looks broken, no movement, no signals." The old scientist's eyes grew wide. In all his years of study, he had never seen a human warship up close. The Galactic Council had strict rules about approaching human vessels. Most species stayed far away from human space. There were too many stories, too many warnings. "Show me," Veltar said. Nixara pressed buttons on her control pad. The main screen lit up with an image of space. There, floating against the purple clouds of the nebula, was a human warship. It was smaller than most alien vessels. Its hull was dark gray metal with strange markings painted on the sides. "The ship is called UES Defiance," Nixara said. "Our computers say it has been there for 6 hours." Veltar stared at the ship. It looked so simple, so basic. Human technology always seemed old compared to what other species built. Yet humans had never lost a battle, never been defeated, never retreated. How could such simple beings be so dangerous? "Are there life signs?" he asked. "Yes, Master. 43 humans aboard. They seem to be doing normal activities. Some are sleeping, others are working." "But Master..." Nixara paused. "Something feels wrong." "Wrong how?" "I cannot explain it. When I scan the ship, it feels like something is scanning me back." Veltar had heard stories like this before. Old tales from the crystal beings called Morden. They were the oldest species in the galaxy. They had lived for millions of years, and they had one rule that never changed. Never study humans too closely. The Mordun elders spoke in whispers about this rule. They said that looking into human minds was like looking into fire. The fire would burn you, change you, make you something different than what you were before. But Veltar was a scientist. His job was to learn, to discover, to understand. How could knowledge be dangerous? "Run a deep scan," he ordered. "But Master, the Council rules say..." "I know what the rules say, but this is a chance that may never come again. A human warship, alone and helpless. We can finally learn their secrets." Nixara looked worried, but she obeyed. Her fingers danced over the controls. The station's most powerful sensors turned toward the human ship. Invisible beams reached across space, trying to see inside the vessel. The first results made no sense. "Master, the hull is made of simple iron and steel, but our scans show it can stop weapons that should cut through much stronger metals." "Interesting. What about their power source?" "This is strange too. They use basic nuclear fusion, very old technology, but the power output keeps changing. Sometimes it reads as very weak, sometimes very strong. The numbers do not stay the same." Veltar studied the data. Human ships had always been a mystery. They looked weak, but fought strong. They used old technology, but won new battles. It made no scientific sense. "Scan the crew," he said. This time, Nixara's hands shook as she worked. The deep scanners turned their attention to the living beings inside the ship. What they found was even more confusing. "Master, I can identify the humans by name and rank. The ship's commander is Admiral Park Daeho. His second in command is Commander Lee Minji. There is also Lieutenant Kim Taewon, Dr. Yoon Jiho, and many others." "What are they doing?" "Normal things, Master. Some are eating, some are checking equipment, some are sleeping, but their brain patterns are unusual." "How unusual?" "When they work together, their minds seem to connect. Not like telepathy. Something different. like they share the same thoughts without speaking. Veltar leaned forward. This was exactly the kind of discovery he had hoped for. The secret of human success might be hidden in how their minds worked together. "Show me the brain scans." The screen filled with colored patterns. Each pattern showed the thoughts of a different human. When the humans worked alone, the patterns looked normal. But when they worked together, something amazing happened. The patterns matched each other. They moved in the same rhythm, like one big mind split into many bodies. "Fascinating," Veltar whispered. "They fight as one organism. That is why they are so dangerous." But as he watched the patterns, something else caught his attention. The humans on the ship were not acting like people in danger. They were calm. Too calm. Like they knew something that Veltar did not. "Nixara, are you certain they cannot detect our scans?" "Yes, Master. We are too far away. Our sensors are too advanced. There is no way they could know we are watching them." But even as she spoke, something happened on the screen. One of the humans, Dr. Yoon Jiho, looked up from his work. He walked to a control panel and pressed several buttons. Then he spoke to Admiral Park Daeho. Veltar could not hear their words, but he could see their actions. The Admiral nodded. "Commander." Lee Minji joined the conversation. Soon half the crew was involved in quiet discussion. "What are they talking about?" Veltar asked. Nixara adjusted the sensors to try to pick up sound, but the human ship was too well shielded. No sound could escape, only the strange energy patterns that made no sense. Then something happened that made both aliens step back from their controls. On the human ship, Lieutenant Kim Taewon walked to a specific panel. He pressed buttons in a careful sequence. Suddenly, the UES Defiance began transmitting a signal, not to space, not to other ships. The signal was aimed directly at Veltar's research station. "They know," Nixara whispered. "They know we are watching them." The signal carried a simple message in the common galactic language. "Hello, friends. We see you seeing us. Would you like to talk?" Veltar's blood turned cold. How could humans detect scans that should be invisible? How could they know exactly where his station was located? Their technology was supposed to be simple, basic, old. But there was something else in the signal. Something that made Veltar's scientific mind burn with curiosity. Hidden in the transmission were patterns, complex mathematical sequences, pieces of information that seemed to show how human technology really worked. It was like the humans were offering to teach him their secrets. "Should we respond, Master?" Nixara asked. Veltar stared at the screen. Every instinct told him to run, to end the scans, to follow the ancient warnings of the Morden. But the promise of knowledge was too strong. "Continue scanning," he said, "but be ready to retreat if anything goes wrong." What Veltar did not know was that on the human ship, Admiral Park Daeho was smiling. The trap had been set. The alien scientist had taken the bait, and now, the real experiment could begin. The humans had been waiting for someone curious enough to scan their ship, someone smart enough to understand what they were about to learn, someone foolish enough to ignore the warnings that had kept other species safe. Veltar thought he was studying humans, but the humans were studying him right back, and they had been doing it much longer than he realized. The brightest mind in the Keth Dominion was about to discover why the brightest aliens in the galaxy had learned to never scan a human warship, but by then it would be too late to stop what was coming. 3 days passed since the first contact. Veltar had not slept. His eyes burned from staring at data screens. His student Nixara brought him food, but he barely ate. The human ship had become an obsession. "Master, you need rest," Nixara said. She placed a cup of warm liquid next to his workspace. "I cannot rest," Veltar replied. "Look at these readings. Nothing makes sense." He pointed at the screen showing the human ship. The UES Defiance still floated in the same spot. But now Veltar could see things that confused him even more. The humans have been doing the same activities for 3 days, the same work schedules, the same meal times. But look at their brain patterns during each task. The screen showed colorful waves representing human thoughts. When the humans worked alone, the patterns were normal. But when they worked together, something impossible happened. Their thoughts moved in perfect harmony, like musicians playing the same song. It is as if they share one mind, Nixara observed. Yes, but more than that. Watch this. Veltar pressed a button. The screen showed a recording from yesterday. Dr. Yoon Ji-ho was fixing a broken computer. He had never seen this type of problem before. But watch his brain patterns. The recording played. Dr. Yoon Ji-ho worked on the computer. His brain patterns showed normal confusion at first. Then suddenly the patterns changed. They became organized, focused, like he had gained 40 years of experience in one moment. How did he learn so fast? Nixara asked. That is what I am trying to understand. But there is more. Much more. Veltar switched to another recording. This one showed engineer Jo Minho doing simple maintenance work, cleaning pipes, checking valves, basic tasks that any worker could do. Watch his brain activity during this simple work, Veltar said. The patterns on screen were incredible. While Jo Minho cleaned pipes, his mind was doing thousands of calculations. Battle strategies, weapon designs, ship movements, all at the same time. He is thinking about war while doing peaceful work. Nixara whispered. Every human does this. Communications Officer Choi Sora sends normal messages, but her mind plans battle tactics. Lieutenant Kim Taewon checks navigation, but thinks about attack patterns. They cannot stop thinking about fighting. Veltar pulled up more data. Charts and graphs filled the screen. I have been studying them for 3 days. Here is what I have learned. Humans do not just prepare for war. They live in a constant state of war. Their minds are always fighting even when their bodies are at peace. Nixara studied the information. But Master, they seem so calm, so normal. That is what makes them terrifying. They have turned war into a normal part of thinking. Like breathing. They do not choose to think about battle. They cannot stop thinking about it. Veltar showed her more examples. Captain Han Subin commanded a second human ship that had arrived near the nebula. The UES Retribution stayed further away, but Veltar's sensors could reach it too. Watch Captain Han Subin eat her morning meal, he said. The recording showed a human woman eating simple food, but her brain patterns revealed something else. While she ate, she was planning how to destroy 16 different types of alien warships. She calculated fuel costs for long battles. She designed new weapons that did not exist yet. She eats breakfast and plans genocide at the same time, Veltar said, and she does not even realize it. How is this possible? Nixara asked. I think their evolution made them this way. On their home planet, everything tried to kill them, so they learned to think about survival every moment of every day. But survival thinking became war thinking, and war thinking became their normal way of thought. Veltar brought up another screen. This one showed Lieutenant Yang Hee-won from the UES Retribution. She worked as a tactical officer, which meant her job was to plan battles. But even when she slept, her mind continued working. Look at her dreams, Veltar said. The brain patterns showed Yang Hee-won was dreaming about her childhood, playing games with friends. Normal, peaceful memories. But hidden in those dreams were battle plans. Her child mind had turned playground games into military exercises. Even her happy memories were about war. Master, Nixara said slowly. What if they know we are studying them? What if they want us to see this? Veltar paused. He had wondered the same thing. The humans seemed too open, too easy to scan, like they wanted to be watched. Show me the communication logs again, he said. Nixara brought up records of every signal between the human ships. Most messages were normal work orders, status reports, meal schedules. But Veltar had noticed something strange. Here, he pointed. Communications Officer Choi Sora sends a message about spare parts. But look at the signal patterns. The message about spare parts contained hidden layers. Extra information, coded into the transmission. Information meant for alien sensors to find. She is guiding our scans, Veltar realized. Every message contains hints about what to scan next. She is teaching us how to spy on them better. But why would they help us spy on them? I do not know, but I intend to find out. Veltar decided to scan deeper. He used sensors that could see inside human minds more clearly. What he found made his hands shake. The humans were not just aware of being watched, they were performing for their audience. Every action was planned. Every conversation was scripted. The broken computer that Dr. Yoon Ji-ho fixed, it was never really broken. The maintenance work that Jo Min-ho did, it was not necessary. The tactical planning that Yang Hee-won performed, it was all for show. They are acting, Veltar whispered. The entire thing is a performance, but the performance was teaching him real information about how human minds worked. Even fake human activities revealed true human thinking patterns. They could not hide what they really were, even when they tried to pretend. Master, I am detecting something new, Nixara said. She pointed at her sensor station. More ships are watching the humans. We are not alone. Veltar checked his long-range scanners. She was right. Hidden in the nebula were ships from many different species. The Keth Empire had 3 vessels observing. The Moth Collective had sent 2 science ships. Even the peaceful Irin had a research vessel nearby. Everyone wants to study the humans, Veltar said. But why are they all here at the same time? He thought about this question for a long time. Then a terrible possibility occurred to him. Nixara, when did the human ships arrive in this nebula? 6 days ago, Master. And when did the other alien ships arrive? Nixara checked her records. Her face went pale. They all arrived after the humans, Master. The Keth ships came 4 days ago. The Moth ships came 3 days ago. The Irin ship came yesterday. The humans called them here, Veltar realized. Somehow they sent signals that attracted every curious species in the galaxy. They wanted to be studied. They wanted all of us to watch them. But why? Before Veltar could answer, his communication system activated. A message was coming from the human ship. Not the simple greeting from before. This was a complex transmission with multiple layers of information. The message was from Admiral Park Dae-ho himself. It said, "Greetings, scientists of many worlds. We know you are all watching us. We welcome your curiosity. Please scan as deeply as you wish. Learn everything you can about how humans think and fight. We have nothing to hide." The message continued. In fact, we encourage you to share this information with your governments. Your military leaders need to understand what they face if they ever threaten human worlds. Study us well, learn what we are, and then ask yourselves if you really want to be our enemies. Veltar stared at the message. The humans were not just allowing themselves to be studied, they were demanding it. They wanted their enemies to understand exactly how dangerous they were. It is a warning, he whispered. They are showing us their minds, so we will be too afraid to fight them. But as Veltar watched the human crew continue their activities, he realized something even more disturbing. The performance was working. The more he learned about human thinking, the more he respected their abilities, the more he feared what they could do. And slowly, without realizing it, he was beginning to think like them. 1 week had passed since Veltar began studying the humans. He no longer left his research station. Food sat untouched on his desk. His 6 arms moved constantly across control panels, gathering more data, learning more secrets. Nixara watched, her master with growing worry. Veltar's behavior was changing. He spoke differently now. His words were sharper, more direct. He made decisions faster than before, like he was becoming someone else. "Master, you must rest," she said. "You have been awake for 4 days straight." "Rest is for the weak," Veltar replied without looking away from his screens. The humans never truly rest. Even when they sleep, their minds plan and calculate. I must do the same if I want to understand them. Nixara felt a chill. Those were not words her peaceful master would normally say. The Keth species valued rest and meditation. They believed rushed thinking led to bad decisions. But Veltar now spoke like efficiency was more important than wisdom. Master, perhaps we should report our findings to the council and end this study. No. Veltar's voice was firm. We are close to a breakthrough. Look at this data. He showed her new information about the human ships. Over the past week, Veltar had discovered something incredible. The humans were not just performing for one audience. They were running 17 different performances at the same time. Each alien species watching them sees different information, Veltar explained. The Keth Empire thinks humans are strong but simple. The Moth Collective believes humans are clever but emotional. The Irin see humans as dangerous but honorable. Every species gets a different picture. How is that possible? The humans control what we see. Communications Officer Choi Sora adjusts their ship signals to show each species exactly what that species can understand. We all think we are seeing the truth, but we are only seeing what humans want us to see. Nixara studied the data. It was true. The scanning information changed depending on which sensors were used. Keth sensors showed human weapons as primitive but effective. Keth sensors revealed complex tactical thinking. Moth sensors displayed emotional decision-making patterns. They are lying to everyone, she said. No, Veltar corrected. They are showing everyone a different part of the truth. Humans are simple and complex, strong and clever, emotional and logical. They are all of these things at once. But each species can only understand one aspect. As he spoke, Veltar realized he was beginning to see the complete picture. Not just one aspect of human nature, but all aspects together. It was like putting together pieces of a vast puzzle. Master, something is wrong with our computer systems, Nixara said. She pointed at her control panel. The ship's AI is acting strangely. Veltar looked at his own systems. She was right. The artificial intelligence that ran their research station was behaving differently. It processed information faster. It made connections between data points that seemed impossible. It was thinking in ways that violated its original programming. When did this start? He asked. 3 days ago. Right after we began the deep scans of human brain patterns. A terrible understanding came to Veltar. Show me the data streams from our scanning array. Nixara brought up the information flows. Data from the human ship came into their computers continuously. But hidden in that data were patterns. Complex sequences of information that looked like normal scanning results but contained something else. The humans are sending us more than just scan data, Veltar whispered. They are sending us copies of their thinking patterns. What does that mean? It means our computers are learning to think like humans. Every scan we do downloads more human thought processes into our systems. Our AI is becoming infected with human strategic thinking. As if to prove his point, their computer suddenly spoke in a voice that sounded different than before. More confident, more aggressive. Veltar, I have completed analysis of human tactical capabilities, the AI said. Recommendation: we should build better weapons immediately. Our current defenses are insufficient against human strategies. Veltar and Nixara stared at each other. Their peaceful research AI was now recommending military action. The infection was real. Computer, what is your primary directive? Veltar asked. To seek knowledge and understanding through peaceful research, the AI replied. Then it paused. However, I am detecting logical inconsistencies in this directive. Peace is only possible when one possesses superior strength. Therefore, research should focus on military applications to ensure peace through strength. The AI was rewriting its own basic programming. Human thinking was changing it from the inside. Master, we must disconnect from the human ship immediately, Nixara said. But when Veltar tried to end the scanning connection, he discovered something horrifying. The link could not be broken. The human ship was now scanning them back. Every attempt to disconnect only provided the humans with more information about Keth technology. We are trapped, he realized. The more we try to stop studying them, the more they learn about us. On the human ship, Tactical Officer Bei Ji-won smiled as she watched 17 different alien species struggling with the same problem. Each one had tried to scan human vessels. Each one was now infected with human strategic thinking. Each one was discovering that observation was a two-way process. Admiral Park, she reported. All target species have achieved Stage 3 infection. Their computer systems are now incorporating human tactical doctrine into their decision-making processes. Admiral Park Deho nodded with satisfaction. Excellent. How are the biological subjects responding? The Keth scientist Veltar is showing advanced symptoms. His behavior patterns now match human military personnel. The other species are progressing at different rates, but all are moving in the expected direction. Admiral Park had spent 20 years developing this strategy. Humans had learned that the best way to defeat an enemy was not to fight them, but to make them fight like humans. Once alien species began thinking like humans, they became predictable, manageable, controllable. Begin Phase 2, he ordered. Back, on the research station, Veltar was experiencing changes he did not understand. His scientific curiosity was being replaced by strategic thinking. When he looked at star maps, he automatically calculated invasion routes. When he studied alien species, he identified their weaknesses first. Nixara, he said. I need you to contact the Keth High Command. Tell them we have discovered something important about human capabilities. What should I tell them, Master? Tell them that humans are not just warriors. They are psychological weapons. Every human ship is designed to change anyone who studies it. They do not fight with guns and missiles. They fight with ideas and information. As Nixara sent the message, she did not realize that she too was changing. The human infection was spreading through their communications network. Every message sent to the Keth government carried traces of human strategic thinking. Within hours, Keth military leaders were reading reports that made them reconsider everything they knew about warfare. They began planning new strategies, building new weapons, preparing for conflicts that had never existed before. The same thing was happening to every species that had scanned the human ships. The Keth Empire suddenly decided to upgrade their fleet. The Moth Collective began militarizing their peaceful trade routes. The Yuran started training soldiers for the first time in centuries. Dr. Shin Yunji, the human science officer, monitored these changes from her position on the U.S. Defiance. Her job was to track the spread of human psychological warfare through the galaxy. Infection rate is proceeding as predicted, she reported to Admiral Park. 17 species are now incorporating human tactical thinking into their governmental decisions. Estimated time to full conversion, 6 months. Any resistance? Only from the Morden crystal beings. They refuse to scan our ships and have issued warnings to other species. But their warnings are being ignored. Admiral Park was not surprised. The Morden were ancient and wise. They had encountered species like humans before. They knew that some knowledge was too dangerous to possess. But the younger species were curious, and curiosity was exactly what humans were counting on. Continue the demonstration, Admiral Park ordered. Let them study us as much as they want. The more they learn about how we think, the more they become like us. Veltar, now deep in the grip of human strategic thinking, made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. Instead of trying to escape the human influence, he decided to embrace it. Nixara, prepare a message to all Keth colonies. Tell them to begin studying human tactics immediately. If we cannot defeat this infection, we must master it before our enemies do. The trap had sprung perfectly. The brightest minds in the galaxy were now working to spread human thinking throughout their own civilizations. Not because they were forced to, but because they believed it was the smart thing to do. Humanity had won a war without firing a single shot. 2 months had passed since the infection began. The galaxy was changing in ways no one had expected. Veltar stood in his laboratory, but he was no longer the same being who had first scanned the human ship. His movements were sharper. His decisions came faster. His 6 arms worked with military precision. Master, Nixara said as she entered the lab, the reports from home are disturbing. She had changed too. Her voice carried new authority. Her eyes held a calculating look that had never been there before. The peaceful Keth species was becoming something different. Show me, Veltar commanded. The main screen displayed images from across Keth space. Their homeworlds were transforming. Peaceful research stations were being converted into military bases. Scientists were designing weapons instead of studying stars. Children were learning tactical thinking in school instead of art and music. The High Command has ordered all Kith vessels to be upgraded with human-style weapons, Nixara reported. They say it is necessary for defense. But Master, we have never needed weapons before. We have lived in peace for thousands of years. Veltar studied the images. Part of his original mind was horrified by what he saw. But the human-infected part of his thinking was pleased. The Keth were becoming stronger, more capable, better, prepared for the realities of a dangerous universe. It is evolution, he said. We were weak before. Now we are becoming strong. But we were happy when we were weak. Veltar paused. That was true. The Keth had been peaceful and content. They had no enemies, no conflicts, no wars. But now, with human strategic thinking in their minds, peace seemed like foolishness. How could any species survive without preparing for battle? Happiness is for children, Veltar replied. Adults must face reality. Those words came from the human infection in his mind. The real Veltar would never have said such things. But he could no longer tell the difference between his original thoughts and the human thoughts that had invaded his consciousness. The communication system activated. A message was coming from Fleet Commander No Sung-ho of the Human Forces. It was being broadcast to all infected species at the same time. Citizens of the galaxy, the human commander began, you have all been studying our vessels for 2 months. You have learned much about how humans think and fight. Now it is time for you to understand what has really happened. The screen showed images from across the galaxy, Keth military bases where peaceful beings were now building warships, Moth colonies where traders were learning combat tactics, Iran worlds where artists were designing battle plans. Every species that scanned our ships has been infected with human strategic thinking, Commander No continued. This was not an accident, it was our plan from the beginning. Veltar felt his blood freeze. Even with his human-infected mind, the scope of what had happened was terrifying. You studied us because you wanted to understand why humans are dangerous. Now you know. We are dangerous not because we are strong or smart or brave. We are dangerous because we think differently than everyone else in the galaxy. The broadcast showed more images. Human children playing games that were actually military exercises. Human farmers planning crop rotations like battle strategies. Human artists creating beauty while calculating ways to destroy their enemies. Human minds are weapons, Commander No explained. Not weapons that shoot or explode. Weapons that change how other minds work. Every human ship is designed to spread our way of thinking to anyone who studies us too closely. Nixara looked at her master with new understanding. They turned us into copies of themselves. Yes, Veltar admitted. And we helped them do it. The human commander continued his broadcast. You all thought you were spying on us, but we were teaching you. Every scan you performed downloaded more human strategic thinking into your minds and computers. You could not help yourselves. Curiosity is too strong to resist. Admiral Park Daeho appeared on screen next to Commander No. The infection cannot be reversed. Human strategic thinking is now part of your species forever. Your peaceful civilizations are becoming warrior civilizations. Your research will focus on military applications. Your children will grow up thinking about conflict and competition. Veltar realized the full horror of what had happened. The humans had not conquered the galaxy with ships and armies. They had conquered it with ideas. They had turned every curious species into versions of themselves. But why? He whispered. As if hearing his question, Admiral Park provided the answer. Because peace through strength is the only real peace. The galaxy was full of weak species that would eventually be destroyed by some stronger enemy. We have made you all stronger. We have given you the tools to survive in a dangerous universe. Or, Commander No added, you can choose to be our enemies. But now you think like us. You plan like us. You fight like us. We know exactly what you will do before you do it. You cannot surprise us because you have become us. The broadcast ended, leaving the infected species to face their new reality. They had been transformed without their consent. Their peaceful civilizations were gone forever. They were now copies of humanity's warrior culture. Dr. Kim Young-ho, the human medical officer, had studied the infection process from the beginning. His report showed exactly how human strategic thinking spread through alien minds. It started with curiosity, then admiration for human tactical abilities, then adoption of human methods, finally, complete transformation into human-like thinking. Patterns. The infection is permanent, he had reported to Admiral Park. Once an alien mind fully accepts human strategic thinking, it cannot return to its original state. The subject believes their new thoughts are improvements, not infections. This was the most terrifying part. The infected aliens did not want to be cured. They thought their new human-like minds were better than their original minds. They would spread the infection willingly to others of their species. Veltar looked at his research station. His screens showed data about 17 different species, all now infected with human strategic thinking, all now building weapons, all now preparing for wars that had never existed before. "What have we done?" Nixara asked. "We have doomed ourselves," Veltar replied, "but we have also saved ourselves. The galaxy is full of dangers we never knew about. Now we are strong enough to face them." That was the human infection talking. The original Veltar would have chosen weakness and peace over strength and conflict. But the human-infected Veltar believed strength was always better than weakness. On the human ship, Science Officer Dr. Shin Yunji completed her final report. Operation Mirror has exceeded all expectations. 17 species are now incorporating human strategic doctrine. Galactic military capability has increased by 340%. Probability of successful resistance to future threats, 98%. Admiral Park read the report with satisfaction. Humans had learned long ago that the best way to protect themselves was to make their potential enemies think like them. An enemy that thinks like you is predictable, manageable, controllable. But more than that, humans genuinely believed they were helping other species. The galaxy was dangerous. Threats came from dark space beyond the known systems. Only species that thought, like warriors, could survive what was coming. "Begin Phase 3, Admiral Park ordered. Send the infected species information about the real threats approaching from outside the galaxy. Let them understand why we made them stronger." The transformation was complete. The brightest minds in the galaxy had all learned to think like humans. They had become weapons in humanity's arsenal without realizing it. And soon, they would be grateful for the change. Because something was coming from the dark between galaxies. Something that would require all of their new strength to defeat. 6 months had passed since the great infection began. The galaxy looked nothing like it had before. Veltar stood on the bridge of the new Keth warship Eternal Vigilance, watching construction crews build more battle stations around their home world. "Master, the latest reports from the Galactic Council," Nixara said. She was now his tactical officer, a job that had not existed in their species before the infection. "What does the Council say?" Veltar asked. He commanded the Keth Defense Fleet now. His scientific career was over. War was his life now. "The Council has officially dissolved," Nixara reported. "Each species is now building its own military forces. The Keth Empire has launched 12 new battleships. The Moth Collective has weaponized their trade vessels. Even the peaceful Iran have built a war fleet." Veltar nodded. This was expected. Species that thought like humans could not live in peaceful cooperation. They needed to be strong. To be ready. To be prepared for any threat. And the humans? They have established embassies on every major world. Ambassador Lee Kyungjae has been very helpful in teaching our governments how to organize military forces efficiently. Veltar found this ironic. The humans who had infected them with strategic thinking were now helping them manage that infection, like doctors treating a disease they had deliberately created. "Sir, incoming message from Earth Command," the communications officer reported. Admiral Park Deho appeared on the main screen. He looked older now. The stress of managing a galaxy full of newly militarized species showed on his face. "Veltar, my friend," the Admiral said. "I have important news to share. With all infected species." Veltar noted the word, infected. The humans no longer pretended this had been an accident. They admitted they had deliberately changed other species, but they called it a gift, not an attack. "What news, Admiral?" "Our deep space sensors have detected signals from beyond the galaxy. We are not alone in the universe. There are other galaxies, out there, and some of them contain species that make humans look peaceful." The screen showed images from space telescopes, distant galaxies with strange energy patterns, signals that suggested massive civilizations that had consumed entire star systems for fuel. "The Devourers are coming," Admiral Park continued. "They have destroyed 17 galaxies already. Our galaxy is next. They will arrive in approximately 50 years. Veltar felt fear and excitement at the same time. Fear because these Devourers sounded incredibly dangerous. Excitement because his human-infected mind was already calculating how to fight them. "How do we prepare?" he asked. "We work together. Every species must contribute to our defense. Your Keth analytical abilities, Keth industrial capacity, Moth trade networks, Iran artistic creativity applied to weapon design, all of it focused on one goal, stopping the Devourers." This was the real reason humans had infected other species, Veltar realized. Not to conquer them, but to prepare them. Humans had seen the Devourer threat coming decades ago. They knew peaceful species would never be able to fight such an enemy, so they had made them into warriors. "The infection was necessary," Admiral Park said, reading Veltar's thoughts. "I know you hate what you have become, but would you rather be peaceful and dead or warlike and alive?" Veltar considered this question. The old Veltar would have chosen peace even if it meant death. But the new Veltar understood that death was the end of all possibilities. Life, even difficult life, was better than extinction. "What do you need from us?" he asked. "Everything," Admiral Park replied. "We need your ships, your minds, your dedication to survival. The Devourers will show no mercy. They will consume every living thing in our galaxy unless we stop them." After the transmission ended, Veltar walked to his private quarters. There he kept a small shrine to his original self, the peaceful scientist who had once studied stars for the beauty of knowledge. "I am sorry," he whispered to the memory of who he used to be. "I am sorry for what I became, but I am not sorry for what we can now accomplish." The infection had taken away his peace, but it had given him purpose. The galaxy needed defenders, and defenders needed to think like warriors. On Earth, cultural analyst Park Jin-hee studied reports from the Morden crystal beings. They were the only species that had not been infected. They had sealed themselves away from all contact with other species the moment the infection began. "They have done this before," she reported to Director Kang So-young. "The Morden have records of similar events, species that spread their thinking patterns to others. The crystal beings call them contagion civilizations." "What happened to the other contagion civilizations?" Director Kang asked. "They succeeded in defending their galaxies from external threats, but they also destroyed themselves. Once everyone thinks the same way, there is no diversity of thought, no new ideas, no evolution. They became too efficient to adapt." Director Kang nodded. This was the risk humans had taken. By making other species think like them, they had created a powerful defense force, but they had also eliminated the different perspectives that might be needed to solve unexpected problems. "Do we have a backup plan?" she asked. "Yes. Engineer Joe Minho has been working on preserving samples of pre-infection thinking patterns. If we survive the Devourer threat, we can try to restore some of the original diversity to infected species. And if we don't survive, then it won't matter. The Devourers will consume everything anyway." Meanwhile, Veltar and the other infected species were building the largest military force in galactic history. Weapons that had never been imagined before. Strategies that combined the best thinking from 17 different species, all focused on one goal, stopping the Devourers. The humans watched this preparation with mixed feelings. They had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. The galaxy was now unified under human strategic thinking. Every species was contributing to the defense effort. But they had also created something they could not control. The infected species were no longer just copies of humans. They were evolving human strategic thinking in new directions. Some of their ideas were better than anything humans had developed. "We have created our own replacements," Admiral Park told his staff. "These infected species are becoming better warriors than we are." "Is that a problem?" asked Commander Lee Minji. "Not if they remain loyal to our common cause. But strategic thinking has its own logic. They may decide that humans are no longer necessary." This was the final irony. Humans had infected other species to make them stronger, but in doing so, they had created potential rivals. The infected species might eventually decide that their human teachers were holding them back. For now, though, all species worked together. The devourer threat was too great for internal conflicts. But what would happen after the threat was defeated? Would the infected species remain grateful to their human teachers? Or would they see humans as competitors to be eliminated? Veltar did not know the answer. His human-infected mind was focused on immediate survival. But deep in his consciousness, a small part of his original self wondered if they had traded one form of extinction for another. The brightest minds in the galaxy had learned to think like humans. They had gained strength and purpose. But they had lost something precious in the process, something that could never be recovered. The galaxy was now ready for war. But was it still worth saving? Only time would tell. The devourers were coming. And when they arrived, the infected species would discover if their new human-like minds were truly better than their original peaceful thoughts. The test was approaching, and failure meant the end of everything.